issues, but,
Well, if the year ends, say if they do have it completed by the end of 2027, okay, it'll be assessed on January, and then it'll be paid that year.
yeah, it's
Later in the year,
separate
but it'll
from
be
the
that.
tax assessment. It's just, hey, January 31, you pay this much money, every year.
Oh, okay, so that's when the pilot will start paying
Right,
that.
right,
In January after it's completed.
right.
Whatever that is, yeah.
How many roads are up there, Andy, in that area?
One, just one in and
Is
out.
that one county road?
One in and out.
One county road?
Well, there's two, well, there's actually three. One goes to Hope Cemetery, but it's not gonna be involved.
What about, farm roads, Tex dot? Is any of those up there?
They gotta come down there to get to the county.
With Tex dot, are they touching base with them, but if they're gonna be using their roads, or?
I'm assuming they have made contact with TxDOT because they have the same situation there, I would assume.
217 gravel, the other one, we spent a ton of money on it, it's a good road.
We don't have any say over state roads,
No.
or private roads or
They get
anything.
those,
think they
over
have.
But I
limit
mean, I don't know.
permits and
Yeah.
go through that
Right,
process.
they have to get
Yeah.
overweight permits, oversized permits, all that stuff. The stuff that the state won't let us do, but they do.
Right. Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
I'm good.
Are you making a motion,
Yes, ma'am.
or are you still talking?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
And the motion is,
Enter into a tax abatement agreement with solar, with
Yes.
Amarada Solar, relating to solar energy generation, storage, and transmission equipment. No, wrong one, that's a 9.
that was 9. 10 is,
What?
motion to approve the tax abatement agreement between Freestone County and Amarada Solar LLC. All right, that is the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed? None, motion carried. Thank you.
We have, signed copies, yeah, and I'll just let you, is Beth in here? So, Beth, can you go ahead and take care of getting these signed, and then just send them to me, and
Yes, sir.
then I'll circulate them.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll go to item number 11, which is the McCurry Law Firm presentation by Mr. Robert.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. I've prepared a report and some handouts for you, just to sort of give you some idea of what we've been up to for the last while.
Yeah.
And give you some information on what we do and how your property tax collections occur.
So are we talking mainly today about delinquent property taxes, or just in general?
Well, a little bit of each. Since our firm represents you in delinquent tax collections, it'll probably be weighted ultimately towards those
Yes.
those activities, those collections, and what we've been doing. And this report gives you a little bit of both. And then I have some other information I'd like to, if I don't take too long to share with you.
It'll be fine, just proceed.
Thank you.
Yes.
And again, I'm Robert Myers with the McCrary Law Firm. I'm here with Dan Rawson, your tax assessor collector, your former tax assessor collector. Lisa is here. Lisa, as you know, assists us as well. She works for us now. And Misty Dingler is here. She's one of our legal assistants that assists us in going through the deed records of the county to determine ownership of property that has delinquent taxes due on it. Another one of our team members, Ryan Black, was supposed to be here. Ryan's under the weather a little bit this morning, so he's not here. But Ryan also assists Misty there. Misty has had a number of years of experience in working for oil and gas as well as research. She worked with Stan for over 10 years, I believe. And Ryan Black has 20 years of background in doing oil and gas work. Both Misty and Ryan live over in Limestone County. They come over here on a regular basis and go through the records and try to determine ownership of property as we begin the process of foreclosure. So that's just the folks that are involved from our firm, along with myself, in assisting the tax assessor collector in collecting your delinquent taxes. Let me go through my report. I'll try to go through briefly because I know you got a lot on your agenda, but this gives us a chance to sort of give you a highlight on how property taxes work, how your collections have been, and how what we do for the county in collecting delinquent taxes dovetails into your overall collection. And I'll try to be brief, but I'll try to make sure I cover all the cogent points. I've got a series of charts in my report that sort of give you a highlight on what your collections look like and how they really work. On page 2 of my report, there's a chart that all this information came from Dan's office. He sent collection reports to me. What I've got on this chart, these are the last 4 tax years for the county, 2022 through 2019. And what we have is the blue bar is the actual tax levy for each of those tax years, the actual amount of taxes that the county commissioners court, adopting its rate, actually levy for each of those 4 years. The yellow bar, these are the actual total collections when you add in the taxes that were assessed that year and collected that year. That's from October 1st through September 30th of your fiscal year. And any penalties and interest and delinquent taxes likewise collected during that period of time. And as you can see, in 2 of the 4 years, you actually collect more than the actual taxes that you levied that year. For example, in 2020, you levied $9,467,000. You collected $9,660,000 if we add in the delinquent collections and the penalties and interest that are also collected and paid to the county. Same thing in 2021. You collected 100.72% of your levy for that year. In the other 2 years, 2022, it's 99.77%, or just a little bit less than 100% of your levy. And this is not too unusual for the county. Typically, the county collects 100% or close to 100% of its levy if you add in the delinquent collections and the penalties and interest on top of all that. And the county's collection percentage actually over the last few years has actually risen, and which is a really positive thing, especially unless you make your business collecting delinquent taxes, so if you get them collected on a current basis, there's less for us to work with, but that's okay as well. And I think this is a positive sign for the county. You know, what really drives tax collections is the ability of people to pay, and when things are good, people have jobs, they have money, they take care of their bills, and that's what we really see here, is that for the most part, the taxpayers and property owners of Stone County take care of the bills. When the bills go out from Dan's office, Lisa's office back then, on October 1st, they usually get those taxes paid promptly, which is by the end of January, then the following January. Those taxes become delinquent February 1, and those that are unpaid by July are turned over to us. But usually during that period of time, the county experiences a very high collection percentage. 95, 96 or greater percent of your taxes are paid on a voluntary basis during that period of time. A very small percentage of your taxes are turned over to us. And I think it's a positive sign for the community that you know your folks are conscientious about paying your taxes and get those taxes paid. My next chart on page 3, same 4 tax years. But what we have here is just to show you what actually happens for each of those years of tax levy. The blue bar again is the original taxes levied. The green is just for that tax year, that to go back to 2020, the $9,467,000 to date, from the date you levied that, which would have been October 1 of 2020, how much taxes of that $9,467,000 without penalties, without interest, without prior year's taxes have been collected. You've collected $9,372,000, or 98.99% of the taxes have been collected. In 2019, you've collected over 99% of taxes. So to date, for these 4 tax years, that balance of taxes outstanding in these 4 tax years is the difference between the top of the green bar and the top of the blue bar. A very small percentage. Less than 1% of your taxes are unpaid. It's really a fraction of 1% of your taxes are unpaid. And that's, again, a positive sign to show that really people get their property taxes paid on a prompt basis through the county. I've got a series of pie charts on the next few pages, and what these hopefully represent is what happens when you turn your taxes over to us. As I mentioned, each July, you turn your taxes over to us that are outstanding from the prior year. In the pie chart on page 4, these are the 2021 taxes that were outstanding as of July of 2022, and they were levied in October of 2021, became delinquent in February of 2022, and this was the balance that was outstanding as of July of 2022. At that time, there was $333,000 in your 21 taxes outstanding out of $9 million plus. And for that year, we've collected in the last 16 months $196,000. This is just base tax, so we're comparing apples and apples and not blending things in. Or 58.72% of the taxes that were turned over to us at that time. The balance of our taxes, those taxes will continue. Some of them, the ones in the red, we recovered judgments or filed suits to collect. The other ones we're continuing our collection activities on. The other 2 pie charts on page 5, on top of page 5, these are the 2020 taxes you turned over to us in 2021. That time you turned over to us $396,000. We collected nearly 76% of those taxes. And the taxes on the bottom of the chart, page 2, of that page, 2019, we've collected 82% of those taxes. So as you can see, when you turn your taxes over to us, we begin our collection processes. I'll go briefly through those, what they mean. And we quickly recover the taxes that are due to the county and continue to work on those taxes that are still outstanding, which is a smaller amount. Typically, what's outstanding at this time are there's taxes that are due on large accounts or accounts that maybe have airship issues on them. I'm going to visit with you about those in just a minute and come back to that in some detail. So starting on page 8, these are the processes that we go through to collect your taxes. Again, our work year starts when Dan sends unpaid taxes to us as of July of each year. The tax assessor collector does. And we immediately send out notices to each of your delinquent property owners, inform them that we're the attorneys for the county, and giving them information about tax due and how to contact us at the office that we have here in Freestone. We have an office within the tax office that Lisa now handles for us to get any information for us, or if they can't make prompt payment, to work with the taxpayers. And to make them aware that the taxes are outstanding. Since January of 2022, went back that far, we've mailed out over close to 13,000 notices that are mailed out routinely throughout the year. We coordinate that with the mailing to the tax office and make sure that each of your taxpayers know their taxpayers are unpaid, how to contact us or the tax office, and most importantly, how to make payment of those taxes. And we get a lot of voluntary compliance once we send those notices out to your property owners. On page 9, in the last year and a half or so, we filed 83 lawsuits in the county involving 257 of your delinquent of persons who have an ownership interest in that property on 280 properties to collect $146,000 in taxes to the county. And what that to file those lawsuits, that goes back to Misty and Ryan, and of course Stan for many years before then, of going out and going through the deed records and looking not just at the name and information on the tax rolls who owns that, but who really owns the rest of the property. Any lien holders, mortgage companies, any party who had an interest in that, we have to include them in our lawsuit, not just the actual property owner. If you go to McLennan County where I live and look in the tax roll, you'll see that it says on the tax roll Robert Myers. Well, if you're going to file a lawsuit to foreclose on that property, you're going to have to include everybody in there, which is going to include my wife, as well as the mortgage company. And that information isn't in the tax roll. You've got to go to the deed records office to notify them. And since it's community property, you better include her in there, because under Texas law, jointly owned property is owned by both of us, and if you ask her, that means that she owns her half, and she actually owns my half as well, as that's far as she's concerned. So if I'm here today, here because she's also told me that I have to stay working, so don't bother her at her house. So keep me working, please, for her benefit. Judgments. When people don't respond to those lawsuits, we do recover judgments. In the last year, we recovered 37 judgments, and this is a real key. On those 37 judgments involving 81 properties, we had 427 people we had to notify as to ownership of those 81 properties. And that's where it really gets blossoming out there. We may file a lawsuit, it may say Robert Myers or Andy Bonner on a roll, and you may actually own part of it, but it may be a lot more people than that. It is not unusual to have a dozen or several dozen people involved in the significant lawsuits I want to visit with you about in just a second. And that's where the work of people like Misty and Ryan and Stan in the past really dug through the records and found the information in the deed records through oil and gas leases, affidavits of heirship. I know I'm preaching the choir right here. But that's if you're going to file a lawsuit for foreclosing property and sell on the steps of the courthouse, you better have all that information, and then you have to find those people, and you have to serve them the process. And it takes time, it takes energy, it takes a lot. I know I'm also preaching the choir. I thought the Mr. McSwain, Mr. McSwain, you've been involved in some of that. So those are some of the tasks that we do. We have conducted tax sales in the last year and a half or so. We've had sales, I've listed them for you on page 10. And involving over 100 properties that we put for sale. A lot of those people, some of those are minerals, surface properties and mineral properties. Over 100 of those got worked out, we got paid. The balance of those, we did actually sell some properties to recover over $100,000 in taxes, penalties, and interest due to the county. So it's a constant process of going through the roll, sending out notices, and working through the delinquent taxes that are due. Is how we get about to get those collection percentages that we have on our charts that we showed you. I've got one more little handout, if I can take a few more minutes of your time to sort of demonstrate what I was talking about here. So like show and tell today. These are some maps from the appraisal district that I printed out, and what we have here, I've outlined in red, are tracts of property, to give you an idea of what's in your delinquent tax roll, what's left over, that small section of taxes that are unpaid. On my first page I have here, the first set of maps, those three outlined properties, the ones on either side, those are ones involved in two lawsuits we have. One is a 23-acre tract. It's $29,000 in taxes, not just due to the county. This is total taxes due for the school and the county. Total taxes, $29,000 on the one that's actually the one on the far left. The other one on the far right, this is a 46-acre tract of land. We have over $51,000 in taxes due on that. And there's lawsuits pending on everything I'm going to be talking about on these pictures, these things. Now, and the L.J. Harrison, that's the one in the middle, 17 acres, $25,000 in tax on that. And we have lawsuits on both of the properties involving the 23 acres and the 46 acres. Those lawsuits have been pending for a long time. We've got dozens of people in there. We anticipate being able to proceed to a judgment of foreclosure in February of next year. The smaller one, the smaller tract, the 17-acre tract, we recovered a judgment in October of this year, and we intend to be able to sell that in February of next year for the $25,000 due on it. Again, this is some of the things that really take digging stuff out in your roll. The next map I have for you, there's several tracts here. I had listed the Delaware Woodard tract. These are the tracts. This is an 18-acre, close to 19-acre tract. This is actually part of a partition. In the middle of that map, there's an outline of about 4 or 5 different accounts. The Delaware accounts are 2 of those accounts in there. In the middle of that, that was actually a partition of a larger tract back in the early 1900s and Della Woodard was awarded one of the 18.9 acre tracts of land, along with her brother, John Brown, who got the other 18.9, and there was 2 other siblings in there. Both of those accounts are delinquent and have close to Della has over $30,000 due hers, and John, the Brown account, likewise have over $30,000. We've recovered a judgment against the Della Woodard property at 19 acres and intend to sell it next February for the money due at it. The John Brown properties, which involve the 29 acre, the 18 acre tract and the 32 acre tract, which is $50,000 on that. We have pending suits on those that we think we'll be able to finish out and have judgments on those in February of next year. And those will be sold shortly after that. Finally, I got just a couple more here. On the third map I have, this is an account listed in the name of C.E. Edwards. We have, let me double check how many I got here. We have 49 defendants in the lawsuit involving the C.E. Edwards tract. We're tracking down the people. This is out on 84, out near Butler, past Red Lake, this tract. We have 49 defendants in there that we've actually identified having ownership interest in this tract that we're currently getting everybody served, and we believe we'll have this account it's already under suit, set for a final hearing next February and recover a judgment and be able to sell it. And as you can see, there's $72,000 due on that tract. These are extraordinarily large accounts that we're working on. I want to show you. And finally, the largest account on the delinquent tax roll. And again, these tax amounts are not just county, there's a school involved with it as well. This is an account that was originally acquired by DesTech. It's over by the Trinity River, and we think it was acquired really for not for the coal that was on it, back when they were mining for coal, and we believe it went from DesTech to Enron. And if you remember, Enron was a large energy company, one of the largest energy companies in our country. And it went completely, it had a huge scandal, huge fiasco a number of years ago. People went to prison over all that. Kenneth Lay ended up dying over the thing. And it was involved in the Enron bankruptcy, which was a huge bankruptcy involving dozens of Enron properties, companies and thousands of properties. And we were stayed because of the bankruptcy. The bankruptcies have now been pretty much finalized, but we've not been able to trace through that bankruptcy what happened to this property. This actually, Enron ownership in it was not even a complete interest. They owned about 70–80% undivided interest in the 121 acre tract of land. And so we think we have cited Enron as best we can. It is no longer a viable company. They had liquidating companies after the bankruptcy. They established liquidating companies to liquidate its assets. We've never been able to trace through the bankruptcy or anything filed in this county what they did with their interest that they acquired through DesTech, that is Enron. So, and there's no, we traced corporate entities in Enron from Delaware to Texas out to the east, the west coast. There's not any more viable companies, Enron companies out there that we can find. Yet so we're not sure what happened to Enron's interest in this, but we're getting ready to move forward with that lawsuit. The other thing that's hanging us out, they didn't have a whole ownership interest. And so the other persons who had an ownership interest, we've been getting those people served. We had it ready for set this past October, and a guy died. So we located his daughter, got her served. She died, she's only in her 40s. And we have our 2 kids who are in their 20s, we're dealing with them. And we think that's the last, it's one of those things, and I know you've been in this thing, you get to will explain, you find out, well, wait a minute, what about my brother and my sister and my uncle and so forth? Well, where are they? Well, a couple of them are deceased, but they got heirs. But and it just keeps building. That's why the CE Sullivan, we got 49 people in there. And every time you contact somebody, it goes completely. And you have to stop, you have to find those people, back up. And they're not right here, unfortunately, in Freestone County. They're someplace. And we got to track them down as best as we can. And we make every effort to do so, to try to do that. We've got a mineral account that Ryan filed. We've got 37 mineral cases and $40,000. John Wood, we chased him from Florida to Las Vegas. We had a private processor for trying to find him lost. We thought we had him located. And we're going to go proceed with him. We're going to sign about posting in February of next year, get that account all together. So it's Freestone County has its own unique challenges. I work in a lot of counties, a lot of jurisdictions and tax collections. This county has these properties are unique. And they don't have these kind of situations in every county that I work in anyway. And I was sharing that with Dan and Lisa earlier. And they provide a heck of a challenge. Number one, to find the property. There's a property not far, I think, from the tracts Mr. Lane, Commissioner Lane has, that's a 35-acre tract of land. It was part of a 75-acre partition back in the early 1900s. That we're tracking down that we think we're going to be able to bring that to conclusion. You got to find the partition, you got to find all those people through oil and gas leases, through affidavits of heirship, and then those are years and years and years old, and start building out and trying to find those folks. So it's a tedious, painstaking process, but I think we got two of the best people. We had one of the best people working on it. We have two really good people working on it now, Misty and Ryan and Lisa, helping us to move these cases forward and get them to fruition and get the taxes, the property sold, taxes paid, and the property back, not only on the tax roll on a paying basis, but even most importantly, get title to the property bought back together. We can actually put Humpty Dumpty back together.
Clean it up.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what we're after. So that's, if you're sort of wondering what we're doing, wandering around the courthouse, or wandering around the county, or wandering around what we're up to, that's sort of what we're up to. And we've been representing the county since Patsy Stroud was assistant collector. I don't know if anybody remembers that. But Lisa does, because I think Lisa and I decided that we both started at the tax office as an attorney and her as a clerk about the same time. We were 1 year apart. But we appreciate the opportunity to represent the county. And anything we can do, we certainly stand ready to do it for the county and for the tax communities.
Any questions?
You got any idea how much money's owed to the county in back taxes now? I mean, countywide, do you have any ballpark figure?
You need me about a second, I got a report, I can pull it right
I
now.
mean, that's okay. And one other thing, we'll talk about that some other time, but do y'all collect any other taxes for the county other than back property taxes?
Do we collect anything else for the county other than practice? Yeah, we represent you in the collection of delinquent fines and fees.
Okay, and do you know how many fines and fees that are delinquent? Do you have any idea about that?
I can get that.
Okay, if you just get that to the judge and we'll take a look at it.
Okay. Thanks. I should have mentioned that we do assist the justice courts in collecting your evidence. Well, thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's take about a 5-minute break.
Sounds good to me.
Huh?